When I was a kid, my mom used to say, "Why don't you get outside and have some fun?" Well, I've taken those lessons to heart, and now I try to inspire others about outdoor living. More on this after the break. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. Welcome to the show. Do you remember as a child staying out just as long as you possibly could in the summer and catching fireflies, or sitting around a campfire and looking up at the stars? You know, there's just something magical about being outdoors that allows you to enter into a state of relaxation. Well, that's one of the reasons I'm so into outdoor living. And you're invited to a party which celebrates the bloom of a certain tree in a garden I designed. Now, I hope you like martinis. And even if you don't, the company is wonderful in a garden that's set along the banks of a river. We'll look at some family activities such as croquet and soccer. Plus, I'll open my garden to some painters and tell you what inspires me to put down the trowel and pick up the brush myself. And a busy chef pauses for a moment to share tips on making your next get-together less stressful while preparing a delicious meal. His recipe a little later. Right now, we're off to Natchez, Mississippi, where a charming couple tells us how they designed their garden to accommodate their children and now their grandchildren. Welcome back. Now let's stop off in historic Natchez, Mississippi to explore a beautiful garden that a couple transformed over the years. Benita and Bob Barnes raised their children in this home, and their garden has always been an important part of their family's activities. And now the Barnes are sharing their gardening lifestyle with a new generation. And wow, look at what fun they're having.
The garden in the front of the house is a very formal garden. It has a round fountain pond in the center with spokes going off of it. And in each spoke there is a little statue of an animal. And the children played a tag game with each of them. The different garden spaces are very adaptable for different uses. The front yard, which seems so formal, is still a place that children like to play.
Children play in front, play croquet and badminton while we sit back and have our martinis in absolute splendor and quietness.
In the upper garden, the driveway has a nice incline that the children like to slide down with scooters.
You know, passing on your interest in gardening and outdoor living is a wonderful way for the generations to connect to one another. In fact, here's a fun project that you could use to get kids interested in growing some of their own food. Ask just about any kid what his or her favorite food is, and they'll just about always tell you it's pizza. Right, John?
Yeah.
Well, why not take something they're interested in, like pizza, and turn it into a fun project? John and I are making a pizza pot. We're planting a summer container full of many of the plants that go into making pizza. We're starting with a large clay pot that'll hold 6 to 7 herb and vegetable plants. Yeah, like this basil. Now this container is about 20 inches across, and to help maintain consistent moisture in the soil, we've placed the container in a large saucer. For a soil, we're just using a standard potting soil and filling the container up to about 1 inch from the top. With the soil in place, we're ready to plant. And I think what we should do is start with the plants that will grow in the center, and the ones that will grow in the center will be the tallest, which will be the tomatoes. Got some right over here. Among the herbs we're planting, there's oregano, basil, curly parsley, and garlic chives. While John prepares some liquid fertilizer for our plants, I'm putting a stake in the center to help support the tomato. Now this little project can help teach kids many things. Everything from how to grow plants, how to grow their own food, to cooking. And there's no better way to celebrate a job well done than to have some pizza. Now for some grown-up fun. The martinis are shaking and the wine is chilling for this outdoor party celebrating the bloom of the Chinese fringe tree. It's all coming up next in Color Corner. Hi, welcome back. There's no doubt that blooms can be inspiring. They certainly inspire me. But have you ever thought about throwing a party around a plant in your garden that's one of your favorites when it's in full glorious bloom. Maybe you've got a rose bush that you just adore, so why not have a group of friends over for a dinner party celebrating another season of bountiful blooms? Or, you know, some of us just love garden fresh vegetables like tomatoes. My friend Gary Ibsen is so passionate about heirloom tomato varieties that he plans an annual festival around them. Or maybe you just have a bunch of folks over at daffodil time. I'm wild about this spring flowering bulb and can't help but gather up bundles and bundles of them to pass around to my friends. Rick and Susan Smith started a tradition among their friends. They eagerly await the bloom of this beauty, the Chinese fringe tree. Then they call together a group for an impromptu martini party.
What we're celebrating this afternoon is the blooming of the Cyanthus retusus tree, which is the Chinese fringe tree. We ended up with this species of fringe tree by accident, and it's been such a stellar specimen that we wanted to celebrate it in some way. And martinis at the time were very in vogue, and we said, come have a martini and see the fringe tree. It's usually the first time the garden looks decent after the winter, and we're delighted to have our friends come in and join with us. I think the party has in some way encouraged other people to open up their gardens and use it as another garden room to talk about, to have their friends in and to entertain outside or entertain on their deck where their garden is, and to share that. And it sort of extends the season. To have some vehicle to have a party and to share your garden with your friend, and whether it's the blooming of a rose bush or whether it's the blooming of a fringe tree or the first morning glories, it's just fun to have some event that people participate in and come and join you in your garden.
Whether you get a kick out of soccer or think croquet is just the game, I hope you'll take this idea of getting out and enjoying nature in your own backyard to heart. You see, the gardening lifestyle is simply about embracing the beauty around you. You know, gardening is really a popular activity. Of course, I love it. I love to grow things and create beautiful outdoor living spaces. And obviously, you know what I'm talking about. But you know, birding, caring for birds, feeding birds, and watching birds is really popular as well and fits in beautifully with gardening. That's why from time to time I like to share with you new things that I find that I use in my garden. For instance, look at these really interesting bird feeders. This one, it's made out of real cedar, and it's got 2 slots, one on each side, for placing suet cakes. And this one is very whimsical. It almost looks like a lighthouse. And the way you fill it is you just pull this top up, which serves as a plug, fill it, let it drop back in like this, and then hang it in a tree so you can watch the little guys feed. Now here's a tip to keep in mind when selecting a bird feeder. You see, I like to use ones in my garden that look natural and will last a long time, like this one, which is made from real cedar. You see, this will cut down on maintenance because cedar is a weather-resistant wood. By the way, it's a great building material for other elements in the garden, such as fences, decking, siding, and even arbors and other garden structures. You know, there's no reason why you can't attract birds into your garden in every season. It's become so easy to do. Okay, so what inspires me to stop planting in the garden and pick up a brush and start painting the garden? Find out right after this. I have to say that gardening, traveling, cooking, and painting are some of my favorite things to do. And if you think about it, they're all interrelated. Many times on my travels, say to gardens of England or maybe the fields of Holland or even the quaint backyards of Germany, I'm inspired to bring back ideas and put them to work in my garden. I was recently at an oceanside location and saw many arbors and pergolas made from real cedar timber. This is a very important detail if you want something to blend in naturally in the garden and also withstand the elements that a coastal climate can throw at it. Now, some of those gardens I've seen are certainly grand and the scale is huge, but you know, I found that in looking at these gardens, you can always bring back ideas that can be distilled down and used in even the smallest space. For instance, here I'm using this beautiful glazed jar, which I think is a really handsome color, and I'm preparing a container garden, and I'm going to give it a little support with this trellis. It's made with real cedar, so it'll last a long time, and it'll serve as the perfect backdrop for a vining plant, like mandevillum, morning glory, hyacinth bean vine, moon vine, or even climbing roses. Or you might even grow a clematis on it. You see, what this is about coordinating colors. This dark rust color Sort of picks up the rust in this ochre-colored jardiniere. And this will be a part of a composition. You see, garden design is like picture making. That's what we're creating, little vignettes or pictures, and this will be a beautiful part of it on a patio or a deck. In fact, on occasion, I've opened my garden to other artists for a paint out. It makes all the effort I've put into my garden worth it, to be able to share it with friends. It's a real joy. Okay, now it's time for viewer mail. Today we have a letter from Meredith just outside Washington, D.C. And she says, Alan, I'm starting a garden and I want to get the look of a country cottage. I'm on a budget, so I'm willing to start from seeds. Any suggestions on plants to try? Well, Meredith, I have to tell you, when I first started my garden, I'd spent so much money renovating my old house, I didn't have a lot to spend on the garden, so I started with seed. Many homeowners think that the only way to have lots of big, beautiful blooms is to load up their cars with flats of plants from the garden center. And while this is fantastic for getting the wow factor, if you're on a budget, it's probably not very practical. So as an alternative, as Meredith mentioned, is picking up a few packets of flower seeds. One of the easiest ways to start seedlings is in containers. Just scatter a handful of seed in a pot filled with soil. Keep it moist, and within a few days the flower seed will begin to sprout and fill the container. Then when it's time to thin some of the seedlings, you can transplant the extras into little 4-inch containers and grow them off for planting in other areas of your garden. Now, some of the garden seeds that I like to start for transplanting into the garden include hollyhock, marigolds, zinnias, hyacinth bean vine, nicotiana, and cleome. Now, if you're on a budget, as many of us are, you may want to check out my website for some other ideas that can give you a lot of bang for your buck. That's pallansmith.com. Now, if you're limited on some other resources like time, then you may want to pay attention to what Rob Best has to say when it comes to entertaining. Some time-saving entertaining tips right after the break. Today we're talking about enjoying the outdoors and living the gardening lifestyle. This certainly means eating al fresco. Chef Rob Best took time out of his busy schedule to prepare a menu that you might want to try for your next get-together, as well as some time-saving tips that will no doubt prove useful.
What we're going to do today is we're having some friends for lunch tomorrow, and I'm going to walk you through a few steps that will save you some time in this busy world that we live in. We're going to do a bacon broccoli salad. We're going to have to cook the bacon to a crisp state, so I always suggest putting it in the oven and baking it on a sheet pan, which is less mess on top of the skillet, and you don't have to watch it, and you can go ahead and do something else while you're doing that. Now, and then the next thing we would do was we're going to bake a chicken salad pie, which is our next item on the agenda. If you want to make your own shell, that's fine. If not, buy you a good quality frozen shell and then go around the edge and crimp the edge like this. Now you want to pre-cook this for about 15 minutes in the oven until it's nice and toasty. Now we're going to go back to our broccoli bacon salad, and we're going to make the dressing, which is the mayonnaise into the bowl. This is a simple dressing. Then we add our apple cider vinegar, sugar to taste, and then this basically is our dressing for our salad. You want to set this aside and refrigerate it overnight. You do not want to put it on the broccoli because in the morning it will be a real limp and will affect the taste of the salad. Now what you do to complete your broccoli salad at this step, you've cut your florets, you've salt and pepper now. Now to this we're going to add the bacon that we've already pre-cooked and diced up that was in the oven, and we're going to add the raisins also to it. Now this just needs to get tossed, and then tomorrow when we coat this, all the flavors will come together. All right, now it's time to move forward to the hot chicken salad pie. What we have here is we've had our sauteed celery, onions, our boiled and chopped chicken, and to that we will add the rest of the ingredients that it takes to make the filling for the pie. The recipe calls for the filling for 2 pies, but obviously we're only doing 1 for our purposes today here. That's the mushroom soup. Here are the 6 hard-boiled and chopped eggs. Then we're going to add the rice. This is a bit too much rice, so I'll cut back some on the rice. So we'll add a little bit more of this other bowl of rice. We don't need quite all of that. And then we're going to add our mayonnaise. And what gives this a distinctive flavor is the lemon juice. Now Now we will stir this together thoroughly, and we will start tasting for salt and pepper and adjusting it. Now, after we've got salt and pepper, we will stir it and combine all the ingredients till we get the consistency that we're looking for. This is one of the last steps that we'll do on the evening before our meal. Then we take and we move this into our pie shell, which we have pre-baked. And as you can see, it looks like a homemade pie shell. Don't tell anybody, they'll never know. They'll think you're a whiz. After you get the amount of filling that you want in your home-baked pie shell, then this will go in the oven for about 30 minutes at 325, I believe is the temperature. And this is the last step that we'll do this evening before tomorrow morning. All right, it's the next morning and we're getting ready for our lunch. What we have is the melon compote that we made up the night before. We've got some lemon bread that we've picked up just to accompany our meal. We have our pre-cooked chicken salad pie, which we're going to top with the cornflakes at this time. Now the cornflakes have been toasted with butter. And you just melt some butter, pour them over, put them in the oven, and toast them. Now this will go in the oven for about 20 minutes to get it nice. It's done. What you want to do is just heat it up a little bit and set the cornflakes a little bit. Now, the next is the broccoli salad. We made the dressing yesterday. We will put the dressing on top, toss this, and set it aside. And in about 15-20 minutes, we'll be ready to start assembling our plates. And there you have it, a simple luncheon that you didn't have to spend all morning in the kitchen preparing if you do your work the day before.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. All the ideas in today's show are meant to help you get outside and just enjoy life and create a beautiful outdoor living space for yourself. Until next time, from the garden, I'm Alan Smith.
In this garden I dream of a bed of flowers. Bluebirds sing of the beauty all around us. And every time the sun comes out, I can't help but smile. Oh, no, I can't help but smile.